Hey there, Internet. My name's Luxander, and I hope you're ready for me to just nerd out for the next 10 or 15 minutes. I don't even know who wants to watch this, but I'm making it. Okay, listen, I just have some things about Game of Thrones that I want to say, and some of it is about seasons past, and some of it is about where we're at right now, which, if you're watching this in the future, right now, we have just seen episode 2 of season 8, which is coming to a close very soon, but we're not even halfway through the current season yet. This is what's on my brain, and it's what I'm going to talk about. So first, I want to say, I have had some, first of all, the thing that I first want to say is spoilers, if that was not already clear enough. But first, I have two gripes that are about previous seasons that I have been thinking about for a while, and I was like, maybe I should make a video about them. And then I was like, really, you're going to make a whole video about two things that you didn't like, that you found inconsistent about listen, this is called title of the video is Rambling About Game of Thrones or something like that, because that's what this is. I'm gonna ramble about it. So my two gripes, one of them has to do with something that Stannis Baratheon says when he is at the Wall. He says a thing to Jon, and at some point when I was watching the show, I realized that it didn't make any goddamn sense. The context of the situation is that Mance Rayder, by the way, I really hope that you watch the show so you know who these people are. Mance Rayder, the king beyond the wall, is imprisoned by Stannis Baratheon, and they're at the wall. Had a hair on me. Anyway, so Jon Snow is supposed to convince Mance Rayder to bend the knee to Stannis, and Mance doesn't want to, and Jon's like, how much time do I have? And Stannis says,
Nightfall! Sun drops fast this time of year. Hurry, Jon Snow.
What are you talking about, Stannis? This world doesn't have normal seasons, so why would the day's length be different at different times of the year? If anything, it would be like, oh, here's a span of 4 years where the days are really long, and then here's a span of 3 years where the days are really short. You can't have a cycle of a planet where in the span of 1 year a whole axial tilt happens and the days go longer or shorter, and also at the same time have seasons that last for years. That's what the seasons are, is the difference in the axial tilt, which changes the length of the day. I hate this so much. By the way, don't even think that this is a thing in the books. I'm not talking about the books. I'm talking about the show. That doesn't make any sense. So that's my first gripe. My second gripe is to do with Robb Stark and the person that he marries in the show, Talisa. Listen, okay, so Lady Talisa is from Volantis, and in Volantis, the weddings supposedly last for 3 days, okay? And we don't know exactly what the religious practice is there as far as the show is concerned, although we do know that there is a presence of red priests in Volantis, which would indicate to me that if there is a religious ceremony involved with getting married, it would be tied to the red priests, and we don't know anything about their marriage customs. But we do know that it is not very likely that they do it the same way as is done in Westeros, because a lot of the things about the culture are very different, and again, the prominent religion there is the Lord of Light, the R'hllor guy that they tend to worship, and so we would assume that the customs of their religion are somewhat different to what happens in Westeros. And then you have Robb Stark, who is a character from the north, and a northern marriage is only considered valid if the marriage is done before a heart tree, before a weirwood tree. We see a northern wedding when Ramsay Bolton marries Sansa Stark. We see a northern wedding and what that would look like. And Robb is a Northman, and we know that Ned and Catelyn got married in the north, so I would assume that their marriage, so I get it that the marriage practices are different in different places in Westeros, but you still honor the marriage as real, because the underlying custom of having sex to consummate the marriage would probably be the same, and so maybe the prerequisites are not that important, but still, I think it's real dumb that Robb Stark, I'm sorry for peeking, I think it's real dumb that Robb Stark and Lady Talisa, I don't remember her last name, are married by a septon with no weirwood tree. What they say the lines that are the 7 gods. Listen, this bothers me a lot. I don't know why, but it does. They get married in a way that doesn't honor the traditions of either of their cultures. Like, what are you doing? So that's me rambling about the couple of gripes that I have with this show. This spectacular show, which I love. I just want to say, for full disclosure, that I have watched the series from beginning to whatever is most recent 11 times. I love this show to bits, but there are just things about it that are not consistent. I want to read the books. I have physically read the first book and like half of the second book, but I'm not good at sitting down to read books anymore, so I just, like, I know a lot about the books because the other thing that I do with a bunch of my free time is watch a bunch of fan videos, like, let's watch an episode breakdown, or let's watch, like, a death predictions video, or, you know, this theory of how the show could change things from the books, or, like, here's this thing about the books that's like, let's talk about the children of the forest, and I'll listen. This occupies a significant portion of my brain space. It's one of my special interests, aside from being trans, and I'm on Game of Thrones today. I'm not on trans stuff right now. I'm on Game of Thrones because okay, now we're officially moving into you need to have watched the most recent episode to understand any of the things that I'm saying and to not get spoiled. I'm going to talk about it. I really hope that you are prepared for this video because this most recent episode was probably one of my favorites in the entire series, if not my favorite in the entire series. As far as, like, this is a contained thing from beginning to end, and the things that happened during the course of this episode, this is my favorite. Although, there is one scene that was really off-putting to me the first time when I was watching it with my husband, that it was just like, why? And so, okay, so now officially, fuck you if you haven't clicked away because I said spoilers like 18 times. Arya and Gendry fuck. And I did not like that the first time I watched the episode. Did not like that at all. I was like, whoa, you're like a child to me still. Why are your titties out? What are you doing? But I've come around. You know, we spent some time talking about how old Arya is. I think, like, I can never remember if she was born before Bran, but Bran was 10 at the beginning of the story, and she was really close in age to him. So she was either a year before or a year after. So she's either 9 at the beginning of the show, and then she's 17 when she and Gendry fuck, or she was 11 at the beginning of the show, and she's 19 now. So either way, she is a fully grown person as far as this universe is concerned, and it's not a big deal that they fuck. But that was the only thing about the episode that I initially was like, really? Like, why? Why did you do that? Other than that, it's amazing. So the pinnacle scene in this most recent episode, which I want to discuss, is the name of the episode. The name of the episode is A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and Jaime Lannister knights Brienne of Tarth, and I cried. I cry even thinking about that scene most of the time right now for the last couple of days because it was so good. It was so good, and I love it, and it was amazing, and if you disagree, I don't know what to say to you, because that was the culmination of Brienne's arc, and she's so happy in that scene, and, like, it's funny because at first she thinks Jaime is joking. He's like, hey, listen, we're gonna do this, and she thinks that he slid back into making fun of her because she just kind of goes like, and she's like, ha, you're funny. Like, I don't really appreciate that, but thanks for going back to insulting me, even though we just had a conversation about the fact that you're being really nice, and I don't really understand where you're coming from. And then she's like, oh, shit, like, you mean for me to come over there and kneel so that you can knight me, and, like, my subwoofer is going out, which is really unfortunate, but when we were first watching it, my subwoofer was just working, and so, like, all of the ambient noise and, like, the depth of Jaime's voice came through, and he's like, in the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. In the name of the mother, I charge you to protect the innocent. And I am about to cry. But yeah, that was beautiful. It was amazing. A lot of the things about the way this season, well, the transitions and the scene changes and stuff like that have always been really good and really telling in Game of Thrones. There was one in particular that I found really interesting because when Podrick started singing, which, by the way, can we just talk about how much of a fucking snack Podrick is? Like, he can fight, he can sing, he got that big dick energy. Like, Podrick is fucking, he's coming up in the world. I really hope he doesn't die, because that would suck. But, so this is something I'm not intimately familiar with. It's like a book thing, and I haven't read the books, so, you know, this is just me sort of going off of all of the information that I have absorbed over the last several years of watching fan videos. So Jenny of Old Stones, who is the Jenny named in Jenny's song. The song is called Jenny's Song. It's a story of, like, Duncan Targaryen, who was in line for the throne and fell in love with a common girl and, like, gave up his throne for the love of her. And then he ended up dying, I think, at Summerhall when Rhaegar Targaryen was born. So... and that's, like, fucking do not come at me in the comments if I have any of that wrong, because I'm just sort of trying to piece together all of the disparate information I've collected. But Jenny's Song, ultimately, it's kind of, like, about the fall of like, someone who was meant to be king and chose to abdicate in favor of his love. And then, like, speaking of the scene transitions, like, Pod is singing, and then we see... like, a couple of scenes of people together, like Missandei and Grey Worm, like, kissing, and then it goes down into the crypts right at the very end, and, like, there's Jon and Dany, and both of them are technically heirs to the throne. Like, Jon is the true heir, but Daenerys has, like, a valid claim, and it's, like, really interesting to me how that was done in the, like, with the scene transition, because of the fact that, like, when I first heard him singing Jenny's Song, like, I was like, what? Like, I know what that is. I know what this is that we're talking about right now. I know how significant that is. My ears peaked when I heard Jenny's name in this song that Pod was singing, and then you have this scene transition. If you know the significance of the song, then you know that it's entirely possible that one of them, Jon or Dany, will give up the throne out of love for one another. It seems pretty obvious to me that Jon doesn't want to be the king, and it was just, like, Sam was like, hey, bro, like, I don't know that Daenerys is the right person to be Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. Have you considered trying to fucking get her spot? Like, what do you... Listen, it's entirely doable. It's entirely doable for them to rule together. Why is she so pissed off about it when they were going to get together anyway? If you're both king and queen, then, like, why can't you just rule at the same time? Like, Davos was even suggesting that in the first episode of the season. He was like, listen, what if the Seven Kingdoms were ruled by a just queen and an honorable man? Holy shit, what a concept. Like, actually working together to rule the Seven Kingdoms. Or, like, what if Jon just gets to be king in the north and she can be queen of the Six Kingdoms? Like, what difference does that make? I don't know. It was not great timing, but like I said, the scene transition was really interesting with the song leading into the scene in the crypt where Jon tells Daenerys about his lineage, which that was excellently delivered, by the way, also. Like, he did not start with, I'm Aegon Targaryen. He started with, I know what actually happened with these two characters. Lyanna Stark wasn't actually kidnapped or raped. They just fell in love and they ran off together, and she had a baby, and then she gave off the baby to her brother Ned, and, like, whoops, guess what? It's me. Hype. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit here because I wanted to say, well, this is just a thing that I think in general, and that I said during the episode, this most recent one, like, I really wanted Arya and Gendry to get together. Like, I sincerely really wanted that to happen, and then it did, and it was all very explicit, and I was like, whoa, hold it there. Like, didn't need it to be that explicit, but again, I have come around on that, but it was just funny. I think it's funny that I was like, yes, do it, get it, but I thought that it would be more like, maybe they'll kiss, maybe they'll, like, hint at the fact that maybe they fucked, but no, like, they just, there's titties and ass and sexy bods in general. Like, oh my god, I don't understand why I felt so weird about it. It was silly of me. Also, thought it was really cute when Tormund was like, hey, Brienne, it might be our last night alive, and she was like, no thank you, and he was like, like, okay, I'm sorry, that's unfortunate, let me try to maybe impress you, but, like, he's not pushing it, really. I appreciate that. So I guess those are, like, the main things that were on my mind that I felt like I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to gush about this for a little while. I honestly have a decent portion of my money on Everybody Dies, but we'll see. I can't imagine that they win the Battle of Winterfell. I imagine that they have to probably, like, okay, we're in predictions territory now. I imagine that they have to regroup somewhere else. Like, they have to leave Winterfell, maybe, like, use the tunnels that Maester Luwin alluded to get out of there. But it's all, I don't know, like, how, like, the last two episodes are supposed to be 80 minutes long a piece. So episode 3 is the Battle of Winterfell, and then you have like 3 more episodes, and I'm not sure what they're gonna do with the rest of that. If it's gonna be they lose the Battle of Winterfell and they have to regroup somewhere else, or if they somehow manage to win. Like, it just sounds wrong to say, oh, they're winning the battle, like they are going to win the Battle of Winterfell. That doesn't sound right to me. It seems like we inevitably have to have the Night King end up south in King's Landing. Like, it seems like if we just have the North versus the South with, like, the Night King dead now, that just seems like a little too soon, a little too much, because as we know with Game of Thrones, they tend to always do their really big thing on the second to last episode, and then use the final episode to wrap things up and sort of like maybe finish out any last bits of plot that need to be addressed before moving on to the next season usually, and this time wrapping it up with a nice little bow altogether, because thank the gods, this is going to be the final season, and I will not be on the hook anymore like I was for the last 2 years with no fresh Game of Thrones. Oh my god, it was the worst. But I am aware that the episode 3 is going to be directed by someone who has directed several of the more intense battle episodes before, so a lot of people are super hype for the Battle of Winterfell. So to me, this just seems like we should not have the action climax in the first 3 episodes of the season. Like, we have 6 episodes to work with. We have had the first 2 episodes. The 3rd episode is definitely going to be the Battle of Winterfell. And then you have, like, episode 4, which is probably going to be, like, a bunch of regrouping and, like, holy shit, we don't have the ability to deal with this. And I imagine episode 5 would have to be when the army reaches King's Landing. People who complain about the time travel are definitely not going to be happy with the pace of things, but, like, you have to wrap it up somehow, and they're putting a lot of effort into doing this. And, like, I just also want to say that the first episode of this season 8 did a very good job, in my opinion, of kind of, like, look, let's just knock this shit out. Let's just get it out of the way. We got Jon on the dragon. We got Jon learning his real heritage. We got all of these character moments together of people reuniting and, like, ooh, how are they going to interact with each other? Like, just knocking it out of the park. You just have to get over it and to move on to the real action. And then, like, that's why I so enjoyed season 2, or that's why I so enjoyed episode 2, is because it was just character interaction, just character moments. There was basically no action, except for Arya and Gendria. Did I just say Gendria? Anyway, is that the name of their ship? Gendria? It has to be Gendria. Anyway, I've been rambling about this for a long time. My point is, I think season 8, episode 5 is going to be the one that has to be, like, the penultimate episode. Like, there's no way that they're gonna do a huge episode of episode 3 and then just, like, have the rest of the season tapering down. I feel like they have to lose the Battle of Winterfell. A lot of people are gonna die, and maybe they're going to try to have a square off with the Night King, and it's just not going to work out. Maybe Theon dies and the gods would. That would kind of go against what Yara told him, which was to not die so far from the sea. Sucks to be Theon. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. I hope that you liked this really rambly, very excited energy episode. I'm very excited for the final seasons. I'm sorry that I didn't do anything more worthwhile this week. If you liked this video, please give me pretty analytics to look at and comments to read. Tell me what your theories are. If you enjoyed these kind of rambly thing, maybe I'll pick another nerd thing to just ramble about. Listen, like, video essays sound like a cute idea. It's not going to happen. I don't think that I have the energy for that. So this is the best you're going to get when it comes to me talking about pop culture. Anyway, comment below if you have any comments that you want to make. Subscribe to this channel for more. Check me out on Patreon. Ring the bell for notifications. And I really hope that you have an okay day. Bye. Thank you to all of my sick awesome patrons, especially The Gay Agenda, Amber Music, David Walter, Jenny Swindles, Elijah Lane, Jess Zendrex, Gretchen Becker, Wellington Marcus, Nicolette Klassen, Alex Padilla, Mr. Atheist, Misty, and Pinesnake.